Barron Trump adjusted the cuffs of his tailored jacket as he stepped out of the car, ignoring the flashing lights of distant cameras. This wasn't about publicity. It was about her. Lily's story stuck with me, he murmured to his assistant, his voice calm but purposeful. Let's make this count. With a small, carefully wrapped package tucked under his arm, he walked through the hospital doors, his tall frame and quiet demeanor instantly drawing curious stares. Today, Barron Trump wasn't a public figure. He was a young man on a mission to change a life. Barron Trump sat silently in the back seat of his car, his hands resting on a carefully wrapped package. The weight of the moment wasn't lost on him. She's been fighting this for years, he murmured almost to himself, as the hospital came into view. And here I am, hoping I can make a difference with just one visit. His assistant didn't respond, sensing Barron's focus. This wasn't about him, it was about Lily, the little girl whose story had reached deep into his heart. Inside the hospital, whispers rippled through the pediatric oncology wing. Nurses exchanged glances, their smiles holding back the excitement of what was about to happen. He's really here, one of them whispered. But they didn't tell Lily, wanting the moment to be a surprise. Lily sat cross-legged on her hospital bed, flipping through a tattered book of fairy tales. Her fourth pole stood like a silent guardian beside her, a constant reminder of the battle she fought every day. Her mother sat nearby, folding clothes, her movements slow and methodical, her eyes betraying the exhaustion she tried to hide. I heard there's a surprise today, a nurse said, leaning into the room with a warm smile. Lily looked up, her face lighting up momentarily, but then quickly returning to her book. Surprises weren't always good in a hospital, and she had learned not to get her hopes too high. Down the hallway, Barron adjusted his jacket and gripped the package tightly. He could hear the faint hum of children's voices and machines beeping, a sound that made him pause. "Here we go," he whispered as he approached Lily's door, his footsteps steady yet deliberate. Knocking softly, he stepped inside, and the room stilled. For a moment, time seemed to stop. Lily looked up, her eyes widening as she met his. "Hi, Lily," Barron said, his voice gentle. "I've been waiting to meet you." Barron Trump sat silently in the back seat of his car, his hands resting on a carefully wrapped package. The weight of the moment wasn't lost on him. "She's been fighting this for years," he murmured, almost to himself, as the hospital came into view. "And here I am, hoping I can make a difference with just one visit." His assistant didn't respond, sensing Barron's focus. This wasn't about him. It was about Lily, the little girl whose story had reached deep into his heart. Inside the hospital, whispers rippled through the pediatric oncology wing. Nurses exchanged glances, their smiles holding back the excitement of what was about to happen. "He's really here," one of them whispered. But they didn't tell Lily, wanting the moment to be a surprise. Lily sat cross-legged on her hospital bed, flipping through a tattered book of fairy tales. Her fourth pole stood like a silent guardian beside her, a constant reminder of the battle she fought every day. Her mother sat nearby, folding clothes, her movements slow and methodical, her eyes betraying the exhaustion she tried to hide. "I heard there's a surprise today," a nurse said, leaning into the room with a warm smile. Lily looked up, her face lighting up momentarily, but then quickly returning to her book. Surprises weren't always good in a hospital, and she had learned not to get her hopes too high. Down the hallway, Barron adjusted his jacket and gripped the package tightly. He could hear the faint hum of children's voices and machines beeping, a sound that made him pause. "Here we go," he whispered as he approached Lily's door, his footsteps steady yet deliberate. Knocking softly, he stepped inside, and the room stilled. For a moment, time seemed to stop. Lily looked up, her eyes widening as she met his. "Hi, Lily," Barron said, his voice gentle. "I've been waiting to meet you." The door creaked softly as Barron Trump stepped into the room, the sound making Lily glance up from her book. Her wide, curious eyes met his, and for a moment, silence filled the air. The 9-year-old froze, her little hands clutching the edge of her blanket. Her mother, seated in a chair by the window, turned toward the unexpected visitor. Her lips parted in astonishment, but no words came. "Hi, Lily," Barron said gently, his voice warm and steady. He crouched slightly so he was closer to her eye level, careful not to overwhelm her. "I've heard so much about you. I couldn't wait to meet you." Lily blinked, her gaze shifting between him and the small package he held. You're Barron Trump? She asked, her voice barely a whisper. Her mother reached out instinctively, resting a hand on her daughter's arm as if grounding her in this surreal moment. I am, Barron said with a small smile. But today isn't about me. It's about you. Lily's cheeks flushed a soft pink, and she glanced shyly at the drawings taped to the wall beside her bed. Crayon rainbows, castles, and animals decorated the space, their vibrant colors standing out against the stark white hospital room. Did you draw these? Barron asked, pointing to a drawing of a unicorn prancing beneath a rainbow. Lily nodded quickly. I like drawing. It makes me feel happy. Barron's smile widened. They're incredible. You have so much talent, Lily. I used to love drawing when I was your age, too. I wasn't as good as you, though, he added with a playful wink, making her giggle softly. Her mother, watching this interaction, felt an overwhelming wave of gratitude. For weeks, she had seen her daughter's spirit waver under the weight of her treatments. But now, Lily's eyes sparkled with excitement and something she hadn't seen in a while, joy. Barron moved closer, pulling the chair next to Lily's bed. Do you have a favorite story you like to draw from? He asked, gesturing to the fairy tale book on her lap. Lily opened the book, her tiny fingers tracing over a picture of a princess. This one. She's really brave, Lily said, glancing at him. Like I have to be. Barron's gaze softened, and he nodded. That's true. But you know what? I think the princess in that story would look up to someone like you. You're brave in ways most people can't even imagine. The words hung in the air, filling the small room with warmth. For that moment, the beeping machines and the sterile hospital setting seemed to disappear. Lily smiled, a full, bright smile that lit up her face. Thank you, she whispered. Barron leaned forward, his voice just above a whisper. Thank you, Lily, for reminding me what real strength looks like. Barron shifted in his chair, reaching down beside him to pick up the small, neatly wrapped package he'd brought. The room was still, the hum of the IV pump in the corner the only sound. He glanced at Lily, who sat with her legs tucked under her, her curious eyes fixed on him. I brought something for you, Barron said, his tone soft but deliberate, holding the box out toward her. For me? Lily asked, her voice tinged with disbelief. Her small hands reached out hesitantly, as though she wasn't sure if it was real. Barron nodded, offering an encouraging smile. Yes, it's something I thought you might like, but you have to open it to see. Lily looked up at her mother, who gave a gentle nod of approval. Slowly, carefully, she began to unwrap the package, her fingers working at the ribbon with delicate precision. Each tier of the paper seemed to echo in the room, building an air of suspense that made even Barron lean forward slightly. When the last piece of wrapping fell away, Lily gasped audibly. Inside was a professional art set, paints, brushes, and sketchbooks, all gleaming as though they were waiting for her to bring them to life. Her fingers trembled as she touched the neatly arranged supplies. It's beautiful, she whispered, her voice breaking with emotion. There's more, Barron said gently, pointing to a small envelope tucked inside the box. Lily's mother helped her pull it out, and as she unfolded the note, her wide eyes scanned the handwritten words. To Lily, the bravest artist I know. Keep painting the world with your light. Barron. The note trembled in Lily's hands as tears welled up in her eyes. She looked at Barron, her lips quivering as she tried to speak. You think I'm brave? She asked, her voice barely audible. Barron's gaze softened, his own emotions surfacing. I know you are. The way you keep going, the way you see beauty in everything and share it through your art. That's courage. You inspire me, Lily. Her mother pressed a hand to her mouth, unable to hold back her tears. For so long, she had watched her daughter endure endless tests, treatments, and pain. Now, for the first time in months, she saw a spark in Lily's eyes, a spark of hope and possibility. Lily hugged the art set tightly to her chest, tears streaming down her cheeks. Thank you, she whispered, her voice filled with gratitude and something more, joy. Barron leaned closer, his voice steady. No, Lily. Thank you for reminding me that the smallest light can brighten the darkest places. In that moment, the room felt full, not just of people, but of something deeper. connection, hope, and the unspoken understanding that kindness can change everything. Barron shifted in his chair, leaning slightly closer to Lily as she delicately ran her fingers over the brushes from the art set. He could see how much this small gesture meant to her, but he wasn't ready to leave just yet. There was something more he wanted her to understand, something beyond gifts or words of encouragement. "What's the first thing you want to paint?" Barron asked gently, breaking the silence. Lily looked up at him, her expression thoughtful. "A sunrise," she said, her voice soft but certain. "I love how it makes everything look new, like a fresh start." Barron smiled, nodding. "That's a beautiful idea. You know, every sunrise is a reminder that no matter how dark the night gets, there's always light waiting for us." Her mother, sitting quietly by the window, blinked back tears. Lily's battles had stolen so much from her: energy, innocence, and the carefree laughter of childhood. But in this moment she saw something returning: hope. Lily hesitated before speaking again, her small voice carrying the weight of her fear. "But what if I don't get to see the next sunrise? What if I can't paint everything I want to?" The room fell quiet, the question hanging heavily in the air. Barron's heart clenched, and for a moment he struggled to find the right words. Finally, he leaned closer, his voice steady but filled with emotion. "Lily, you've already painted so much, maybe not on paper, but in the hearts of everyone who knows your story. People see your bravery and your strength, and it changes them. You've changed me." Lily blinked at him, her big brown eyes shimmering with unshed tears. "Really?" Barron nodded, his voice unwavering. "Absolutely. You remind me that life isn't about how much time we have, but how much light we bring to the world. And Lily, your light is incredible." Her lips trembled as she smiled, a mix of joy and gratitude softening her features. "Do you think I'll be able to keep painting?" Barron reached out, resting a comforting hand on the edge of her bed. "I believe in you, Lily. Your creativity, your courage, they're unstoppable. And no matter what, I promise I'll be cheering you on every step of the way." The words wrapped around Lily like a warm blanket, and she nodded, her face brightening. Outside the room, a few staff members had gathered quietly, their eyes glistening as they listened. The connection unfolding inside wasn't just touching, it was transformative. As Barron stood to leave, he looked at Lily one last time. "You're going to paint that sunrise, Lily. And when you do, I hope you'll send me a picture. I want to see the masterpiece you create." "I will," she whispered, clutching her art supplies tightly. "I promise." Barron smiled, his voice steady but full of emotion. "And I promise I'll be waiting." As Barron stepped out of Lily's room, the emotion of the moment lingered with him. The staff waiting outside had seen everything: the joy in Lily's eyes, the tears in her mother's, and the kindness in Barron's words. It wasn't just Lily who felt the impact. The entire wing seemed lighter, as if a wave of hope had swept through the halls. "I've never seen her smile like that," a nurse whispered to her colleague, her voice filled with awe. "It's been weeks since she even wanted to talk to anyone." Barron paused, catching the exchange, and turned to the nurse with a gentle nod. "She's incredible," he said, his voice steady but filled with emotion. "And I think she's the one who's inspiring all of us." The warmth of his presence didn't stop with Lily. As Barron moved through the corridor, he stopped outside another room where a young boy with a bandaged head was playing with toy soldiers. The boy looked up, his face lighting up when Barron walked in. Without hesitation, Barron knelt beside him. "Who's the leader here?" he asked, pointing at the toys. The boy giggled, holding up a small, battered figurine. "This one. He's the strongest." Barron grinned. "Looks like a real fighter, just like you." The boy's laughter echoed through the room, drawing smiles from the staff nearby. One by one, Barron met with a few more children, never rushing, never treating it as an obligation. Each interaction was genuine, filled with warmth and encouragement. It wasn't about grand gestures, it was the small, heartfelt moments that left a lasting impact. In the midst of it all, Lily's mother stood at the edge of the hallway, watching Barron move from one room to another. Her hands trembled as she pressed them to her chest, tears streaming silently down her face. "For so long I've been praying for a miracle," she whispered to one of the nurses beside her. "I think we just witnessed one." Meanwhile, outside the hospital, News of Barron's visit had begun to spread. A handful of reporters had gathered hoping for a story, but Barron, true to his intention, had ensured the visit remained private. No cameras, no press releases, just him and the children who needed a reason to smile. As he prepared to leave, a staff member approached him hesitantly. "Mr. Trump," she began, her voice trembling, "what you've done today, it's not just for the kids, it's for all of us. You reminded us why we do what we do." Barron's expression softened. "The real heroes are in here every day," he said, gesturing toward the rooms. "I'm just lucky I got to meet them." Walking toward the exit, Barron glanced back one last time. The laughter and light in the pediatric ward told him everything he needed to know. One small act of kindness could change not just one life, but countless others. And today, that change was just beginning. Weeks had passed since Barron's visit to the hospital, but the ripple effect of his kindness continued to spread. Lily, once weary and withdrawn, now greeted each day with renewed energy. The art set he had given her became her constant companion, and every blank page she filled seemed to reflect the light and hope she had felt during his visit. One afternoon, as the soft glow of sunlight filtered through her hospital window, Lily carefully added the final strokes to a painting she had been working on for days. It was vibrant and full of life, a rainbow arching over a hill, children playing in a meadow, and in the corner, a small dove soaring upward. She titled it, "Hope." "Do you think he'll like it?" Lily asked her mother, her voice tinged with nervous excitement. Her mother knelt beside her, brushing a strand of hair from her face. "He'll love it, sweetheart," she said, her voice steady, but her heart swelling with emotion. "Because it's not just a painting, it's a piece of you." A week later, the painting arrived at Barron's home, carefully wrapped and accompanied by a handwritten note from Lily. The note was simple, yet profound. "Thank you for believing in me. This is what hope looks like to me." Barron stood in his room holding the painting, his eyes lingering on every detail. He recognized the colors, the joy, and the resilience Lily had poured into it. Carefully, he placed it on a shelf where he could see it every day, a reminder of the courage and strength of one little girl who had taught him the true meaning of hope. For Lily, the changes weren't just emotional, they were physical too. Her doctors began to notice subtle improvements in her health, small but meaningful milestones that had seemed elusive before. Her mother couldn't help but attribute this to the spark of positivity Barron had reignited in her daughter. "She's different now," her mother confided to one of the nurses one evening. "It's like she believes in herself again, in life again. And I think it started with him." Back at his home, Barron often found himself reflecting on that day at the hospital. The images of Lily's wide-eyed wonder, the laughter of the children he met, and the tearful gratitude of their parents played in his mind like a reel. It wasn't just a memory, it was a lesson. He knew that for the world, he was simply Barron Trump, someone born into privilege and expectation. But in that hospital, he had found something far more meaningful, the realization that even small acts of kindness could create waves of change. Months later, during a quiet moment, Barron wrote a letter to Lily. In it, he thanked her for the painting, calling it a masterpiece that brought light to his home. "You've inspired me, Lily," he wrote, "to always look for ways to bring hope to others, the way you've brought hope to me." As Lily's mother read the letter aloud to her, tears streamed down both their faces. "You see, Lily?" her mother said, hugging her tightly. "You're changing the world, one little piece of hope at a time." The story closes with an image of Lily painting another canvas, her health steadily improving, her spirit unbreakable. And in Barron's room, her painting shines brightly, a constant reminder that sometimes all it takes is one person to light up the world of another. Lily's story reminds us that kindness, no matter how small, can create ripples that change lives. You too have the power to bring hope into someone's world, whether through a smile, a helping hand, or a heartfelt word. Today, take a moment to reach out to someone who might need it. Let them know they're not alone. Because sometimes a single act of kindness can spark a lifetime of courage,